Welcome to GameRomp Easy Mode, a chill, easygoing podcast about gaming stuff. With your hosts, me, Deanna,
And me, David.
Why are you laughing at me?
I don't know. It's just your energy is funny.
Once I get talking, I'll be better at this.
That's fine. This is supposed to be chill and sleepy time.
Yeah,
well,
so that's my excuse for keeping my eyes closed while we read this out.
That's fine.
So what do you want to talk about this week?
Well, I guess the biggest thing we did, or I did this week, was try out the new big free-to-play game that's out by Hoyo, which is Zenless Zone Zero. It's got really high production values.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I helped out a little bit with streaming it for, how long do we stream for? Like an hour and a half or something?
Yeah, something like that. Not too long. And yeah, it was, you were getting kind of a little fatigued there. It feels...
So I like the theming of it.
Yeah, it's from the same people that made Genshin. So that's why I went into it thinking, oh, maybe this will be really good too. Because I like Genshin a lot.
Turns out it wasn't that good.
Well, it's just very, very different. Like when you play Genshin, even for the first time, it kind of like, you got your little like 2-minute cutscene and then you're just dropped into the big open world to go play in. This game, what does it drop you into? Some story sequences, and then it's like a comic book, which was confusing in the sense that like there's button prompts on the screen for the shoulder buttons.
Yeah, they didn't do that very well.
But there was no button prompts for like confirm, which for me would have been A since I was playing an Xbox controller.
You know what I think that bothered me about that introduction thing, or like how the cutscenes as a comic worked, was that it showed you how to go back and forth with like the Z buttons.
The shoulder buttons, yeah.
So it did that, but that should have just
made the speech bubbles pop up.
Yeah. Like it doesn't make sense that you were supposed to press A or whatever the button prompt is to make the speech bubbles come up, but not show that.
Yeah, and to make it clear to people who haven't played it, it's basically, imagine a comic book or a manga, and it's like this 2D art, and sometimes there's a speech bubble, and you press A, and another speech bubble pops up. Press A, another one, and sometimes a new panel will pop up.
But the only button they show you is to
on the
change
screen
the page.
Is the trigger buttons. But if you press the trigger buttons, it's like turning the page. I didn't realize that's what that meant. So for quite a while there, I wasn't pressing A to like, pop up the speech bubbles. I was pressing the only button prompt on the screen, which is more like turning the page. So we were probably missing out like
more than like 75% of the dialogue. At least.
Yeah.
I mean, some
50
pages,
to 70%.
Yeah, we were only getting the first speech bubble for each page instead of
It was very
the 5.
confusing, yeah.
I don't know why they thought that. I wonder if other people had the same issue.
I think they could have just solved it by putting like a button prompt at the bottom that was like A.
Yeah.
But because the only button prompt on the screen was the trigger buttons, we were just flipping through the pages. So that was a weird
Now
intro.
I want to look that up because I want to see how other people worked with that. If they were also having the same issue, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's not that big of a deal. I could have like gone back, but I really wasn't too interested in the story, at least not yet. So
I mean, honestly, I think the story part was probably the most interesting bit of that whole game. I mean, okay, fine. I was only watching. I wasn't actually doing the action. But the fighting is pretty whatever.
Well, see, to me, yeah, the fighting was the more interesting, at least going into it, I thought it would be the more interesting thing, because it's very fluid. Like, this game looks really pretty, and the animations are really good, and some of the combat is really fluid and fun. I would say the gun guy, Billy the Kid, I think his name is, I didn't really enjoy playing as him, because he shoots and stands still. It's kind of awkward.
Basically the Deadpool stand-in.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
I mean, that's how it read to me.
Yeah. So you're, like, playing as, like, some characters that are traversing, like, this, I don't know if it's, like, another dimension in the city or just like this contaminated part of the city, and they're stealing something, and I mean, it's fine, it's whatever. I didn't really care too much about the story yet. Like, maybe it gets good later. I could say the same about Genshin, because Genshin, the same people that made this, the story starts out really kind of whatever, but like the gameplay hooked me. I wanted to explore the world and get treasures. That hooked me when the story didn't. But in this game, the gameplay is just okay, and it doesn't really hook me to want to continue with the story either, so I don't really have a huge hook to keep playing.
Well, I didn't really have much of a hook to keep watching.
Yeah, I noticed
But
you were getting fatigued too.
yeah, but I just again I wonder if that's just because I was watching it. So it if you're a person who's just watching someone else play a game, does it make more sense that I would be more interested in the story and not give two shits about the fighting aspect?
I
And then the
guess.
person who's like actually taking control and wants to play the game will then find the fighting aspects more interesting because well, that's what they're waiting for.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I think for me, the combat also was like, it didn't really quite hit me the same way. I mean, Genshin's combat is pretty simple. It's,
I was actually getting slightly better at it, which
it,
I guess makes sense, but
yeah, compared to this, because this has like this, it has like a parry mechanic, which is kind of cool. But like, you only have three characters instead of four, and their skills work a bit differently. I would have to play a lot more to get like really used to it, but it didn't. I think like Genshin's combat is a bit more simplistic and easy to understand.
also it seems, at least from what I observed, that in I'm just gonna call it Zone Zero or whatever. I don't know.
You can just call it ZZZ. That's what everyone online is doing.
Zone Zero seems easier, but
Okay.
but while watching you fighting and the watching the combat and everything, it seemed like compared to Genshin Impact that when you're playing, even though you only have I guess what three characters, I mostly saw you with two characters. It seems like you wanted to play with one character more specifically than Billy, but it seems that when you're fighting, this game kind of makes you well, not makes you, influences you to switch between the characters more often. Whereas in Genshin, I could just stay with one character. I don't have to switch out. It's better if you do, obviously,
Yeah.
but this one has that mechanic where it's like, okay, now you go to switch and like sync up with the other person or something.
I think in some ways, yes, but it's also you can just switch back. For these games, a lot of it is like since you can only control one at a time, a lot of it is can these characters provide support, especially off-field support is what they call it.
Mm.
Like thinking back to like Genshin, for example, one of the characters that I know you were playing with for a bit was I think his name is Kaya. He's like an ice swordsman dude.
Yeah.
One of his skills is that he'll make icicles go around you. But then you can switch and play as somebody else, and those icicles will still be there contributing damage.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah.
I guess I managed to get the icicles, but I was only triggering that at least from what I last remember playing was trying to get them across the lake, but that just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's like his signature and most useful move. Like you can switch to him, throw that icicle mechanic on, switch to another character who's better at dealing damage, and basically you're comboing damage. So if you had, for example, somebody who was doing like a bunch of water damage, you could switch to Kaya, throw on his ice, switch to your water person, fight with your water moves, and Kaya's ice will hit the enemy, cause the chill, combine with your water character's water, and cause them to freeze.
Oh shit, I had no idea.
So
Okay, so he's got like a dot.
it's like a sort of a damage over time, but it's like these things that follow you and deal damage. A lot of characters will have stuff like that.
I'll have to remember that in the future if I go back to it. But
Yeah,
as I'll bring up later, I've been playing something else. So.
yeah. And again, like for back to Zenless, I think there's some characters that are like that, where they're designed to be support. Like it's even in their description, like this is a support character, this is an attacker, etc. So when I was playing on stream with you, because it was the tutorial, basically, yeah, I think I only had like two characters. Later on, when I played again, I had unlocked the other girl with the pink hair, and then some people from the gacha. And the combat is fun. I mean, it's okay. I liked it enough. I'm not good at it. I probably don't fully understand it yet, but it's not like it's bad. But I think the thing for me is that there is no exploration at all, and that is like that's what hooked me on Genshin more than the combat.
Yeah, that makes
The
sense.
world and like, oh, going over the hill and finding this and there's a chest and ooh, there's a little puzzle and all
Yeah,
that
I
stuff.
definitely do enjoy that too.
I love that. But in Zenless, it's not really that. Like,
You're moving on TVs for some reason?
yeah, that I think that's kind of the exploration, but that's not interesting. It's like a puzzle game, but it's not a puzzle. It's more like a board game.
Yeah,
But
because there was something about like, oh, you can get chased by these things that follow you after every couple of steps.
yeah, and that didn't happen again when I played yesterday, which is weird. I don't know, maybe
Now, do the televisions get more complicated, like the route you have to choose to take?
There's
Is it
different puzzles and
still
stuff, yeah.
okay?
Like in one of the ones I played yesterday is like, oh, there's no way to get over here. Then you trigger one of these things and it's a trap, and then there's this whole big story sequence. It's their way of like, this is their world to explore, I guess. But I mean, you're looking at TV images, 2D TV images. It's like, it's stylized, very cool, but it's just not interesting to play.
Yeah, it's weird. I enjoy the aesthetics, I
Yeah.
suppose you could call it, of like the, mid to late 90s, somewhere in the 90s, where it's like, the video store and all these
Yeah,
things
like
before.
VCR tapes.
Yeah.
It's
But
very,
as far as the game itself, it's just like,
yeah. Aesthetically, it is so cool. Like, I guess their job is like they help these people go through the Hollow, which is like a dangerous part of the city where I don't exactly know what causes the people to turn into those glowy rainbow void head monsters. But yeah, their job is like to help the actual playable characters go through there. But then like when you're playing as them, you can explore their little block around the city, which kind of looks like, I mean, I guess it's supposed to be China or nondescript Asian country.
East Asian country, yeah.
But yeah, like imagine if you're playing like Persona, you're walking around the city. There's a little store with a dog where you can buy scratch offs. There's a little noodle place with a guy with like robot arms. There's a cafe with a robot guy, like a full robot, and his like face is like a coffee maker or something. He's kind of funny. There's like an arcade that I think I just opened up, and like some gacha store where they sell weapons, I guess.
That was another thing I wanted to ask you. I don't know if it matters what we talk about in what sequence, but
Yeah, go ahead.
I remember seeing when you were doing, I don't know if it was the real life gotcha, like paying money, but like testing it for free or whatever.
Yeah.
Those weren't the little ball things, those weren't weapons themselves, right? That was like weapon upgrades.
Okay, so yeah. Now, again, to compare it to Genshin, because like I think more people have played Genshin and it's more traditional in a sense. Or in Genshin, if you have a character, this character uses swords. You're gonna find swords. There's a bunch of different swords. This sword is blue and it does this. This sword is red and it does this. This character uses bows. This bow is a wooden bow that does this. This bow looks like a black and red thing and it does this, whatever, etc. In Zenless, all the characters have their one weapon. It doesn't change. And instead, when you get weapons, they aren't weapons, they're these little ball things. And the little ball things have the stats that you would see on the weapons in like Genshin. So if you get this ball, it has an attack of 50 and it does this effect if you use chill. This ball has an attack of 45 and it provides this other effect.
That's why I was figuring like the balls weren't like quote unquote weapons, since you don't change your weapon. It was just like how other games use gems or something.
Yeah, to me, that's another downside. It's way less interesting.
Yeah, because all the balls are exactly the same, except like, oh, this one's a different color.
Yeah.
Whereas at least when you're doing the gacha in Genshin, the weapons look different.
Yeah.
So
and
it's like that seems more exciting than, oh, I got 3 green balls and a purple ball and a black and red ball. Like, they're all just fucking balls.
Yeah, 100% agree there. That's another reason it's like, well, it's not interesting to get new quote-unquote weapons in this game because they're just
the same thing.
They're just a PNG. You never really think about it. It's like, whatever. So I don't really like that aspect of it either.
So I wonder if their sales of gacha is going to go down over time, because obviously I think I just read something about they made like 25 million from mobile or something for this, and it's been out for like less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been successful. It's made more than the other.
Well, it just came out, so I can understand it's successful, but I'm just wondering if over time are their profits from the gacha going to go down because people are just sick of like getting different colored balls is not as exciting as getting different, even if it's just weapons.
Well, the thing is, like,
the only time it's exciting is when you get a person.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes them the money. When they have, this is the new person and they look cool, and you either like them because you met them in the story and they have a cool personality, or because they are hot. I mean, basically.
Yeah, I guess.
So, like, right now, the character that's, like, their signature banner character is the girl with, like, the shark tail.
Yeah.
And some people really like her. I think she looks ridiculous. because I don't know. It's like it's this normal looking human girl. She is just a regular human girl.
But she's got a shark tail coming out her butt.
Yeah, like what is that? That's so weird. I don't get it. I don't know. Anime, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess it would still fall under anime, but I know there's like that shark girl VTuber. I wonder if it has something slightly
Is
connected
she like
to that.
that too? Does she just have a shark like up her ass?
I don't know if she has a shark. Well, she's a VTuber, so it's usually only like the chest and head area. Maybe she's just wearing a shark hoodie thing.
I'm assuming it's just like a tail, like like a
Yeah,
furry likes to wear a tail or something.
yeah, but the shark tail just looks different.
It's like it also kind of moves, so I don't know if it's a part of her or if it's just
I think it's a part of her.
that's so weird. You're
But I
like
guess the
99%
VTuber.
human except you have a shark tail grafted onto your ass. Does
I
she
think
have blood and bones in there?
I would assume. Well, okay, if we take it from the idea of like the kitty girls or something,
Yeah.
the difference being is that usually with kitty girls, it's a thin tail,
Yeah.
so it matches a human's like tailbone area vaguely.
Yeah.
And those move too, so that would have flesh and blood and I assume bones in there and stuff, just like a cat's tail actually would.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the shark tail, it's because it's so much thicker. It seems like it would be a little bit more weird.
Yeah, I guess so. Speaking of cat girls, I won't get too distracted on this, but in Genshin, obviously, there's a cat girl. I think her name is Kirara. And there's going to be an event next week. I think it's next week, where she's going to play like a big role. And like they're giving her away for free. It's like you do this story quest and you get this cat girl.
Oh shit!
And
How far do I have to be in the story though?
I'm not sure how that works out.
But then I'm a full-ass fledged furry, so
So
cat
she
girls
like
are, eh.
yeah, she's an anime cat girl. She's got cat ears, she's got cat tail. She does a lot of nying and meowing and purring. And her special ability is like when you use her special attack, she goes into a little box and she runs around the field in a box, almost kind of like Solid Snake does. It's really cute. So that'll be interesting.
What
It,
they
like
call those neko mimi, right? Neko ears, when it's like more human than furry.
it depends. Some characters have like their hair is kind of dressed up as cat ears, and some characters just have like, oh, we have cat ears. I think she's got cat ears because she has a tail. Actually, she has two tails for some reason.
Completely, I mean, slightly connected, but also completely different topic. However you want to take it. It reminds me of how Skyrim Khajiits have their different forms.
Yeah.
You have like the full human that has like tattoos, I guess, or what looks to be tattoos. And then you get the Khajiit that are mostly human, but they have like the ears and tail. And then with each moon stage, and there's like two versions of each, they get progressively more furry and then more feral until you get to straight up fucking house cat.
That is so cool. I'm not a furry, but I think the Khajiit are probably one of the coolest like animal people in games
Yeah, because there's so much variety. You can, I mean, if you're, choosing a character, you can be whatever kind of fucking Khajiit you want. You want to be the full ass human with some funny face tattoos? Then fine, whatever. You're a Khajiit. You want to be a full fledged house cat? Fine, you're a Khajiit. You want to be a giant, like, saber tooth cat that can be used as a fucking war mount? You're a Khajiit. There's all of them.
That's funny. It's like imagine like this is all from the same parent and they're just all completely different things.
It's interesting, because I think, if I'm remembering correctly from lore, all Khajiit start as kittens. And then they just progress. But then that also doesn't make sense, because how would you start as a kitten, but then grow up into a human, basically?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess you would just lose your fur, but wouldn't it be easier to be born without fur and then grow it progressive? I don't know.
Never mind the bone structure and stuff.
Yeah, and that's another thing, because in each moon phase, like I said, you have the two, because they have two moons, so I guess that just multiplies it. You can have the, like, full-fledged furry, but one will have human-like feet, and then the other one will have the furry feet. And so that's interesting, too, which I always preferred the furry feet, but,
Yeah. I mean, it depends, but yeah, I get you. Like, sometimes you'll see, like certain furry characters, and it's like, this is just a human with a different head model. And it's like, that's
Yeah.
boring.
And sometimes they don't even do the head models correctly. There's certain versions of the furry head on a human body. You have to be very careful of how you connect those two.
Yeah.
Because if you do it wrong, it's beyond uncanny valley.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, especially for like Khajiit, because like you play Skyrim, for example, that you only see the one Khajiit. If you play like a mod where you go to the Khajiit country, then you'll see like some of the other ones. But like, I think Elder Scrolls Online had like a Khajiit expansion where they added a bunch of that stuff. I never played that, at least not that expansion.
That was another thing with Elder Scrolls Online specifically.
It has a very weird cartoony look, yeah.
Well, not only even that, but like, I forget which cutscene for whichever expansion.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there was that Black Panther guy.
Yeah, and he looks fucking great.
Yeah.
But if you're playing a Khajiit, your hand just looks like a regular human hand with really long nails. It is tough. So fucking ugly.
It's tough. That game, to me, it was a good game, but it's like visually, even if you play one of the other races, visually, I always found it kind of just mid. Like, it's not a very pretty. I guess the environments are fine, but like the characters to me have always been kind of just
wonky.
Yeah.
I think Elder Scrolls have always kind of had wonky characters.
True. I guess I'm just used to playing it on PC with mods, so they don't usually look too bad when I play them.
And I don't know if I have said this on the podcast before in past episodes, and we're only like 12 episodes in, so I'm sure I'll be going over this again in the future too. As far as MMOs go, and probably all games, the best furry cat character, in my opinion, will always be Guild Wars 2. The Char.
Yeah.
Oh god, those things are fucking perfect. Like, if I could take the Char character, even just maybe the skeleton, but bring that into like Elder Scrolls for my Khajiit, that's some good shit. And when you run fast, you can just go on all fucking fours because you're a fucking cat and that's what you're supposed to do.
Very excited about running on fours.
It is the best thing ever.
I mean, they are very cool. I didn't play Char, but I think I made one. But like, yeah, they are. It's a very cool kind of character. It's way better than the other. Like, okay, they got humans. They got tall humans.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
And then they didn't have. I don't think they had elves. They had like plant elves, which were just humans, except they're made out of like broccoli. And then like,
wow, rude. Some of them are made out of mushroom and fungi.
And then there was like the little guys.
Yeah. It's funny, you have humans and then you have the Dutch. They're just fucking huge. Okay, they're the Dutch as in they're really tall, but they're also like the Nordics, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're more like Nords, but yeah. And then you had like the Char, which were very unique. Like,
the Char are so good. I'm sorry.
And they were cool. Like, they were like, I guess they're kind of like the orc stand-in. They're very war-like. They have war machines.
Yeah, they are very aggressive.
I don't remember their stories, if they're like shamanistic or why they're like that, but
the only thing I remember lore-wise is that they really, really fucking hated the humans. But then the humans also really, really fucking hated the Char. So much that the humans came back as ghosts and they were still fighting the Char. Like, holy shit, let it go. What were we talking about?
MMOs. Cats.
Oh, yeah. I went to
people.
cats because of Neko Mimi's and the
from Genshin.
anime girls. Oh, God.
And that's the fun thing about the podcast. It just goes and goes in random directions.
Oh, I suppose.
Speaking of the cat girl from Genshin, she also has the little cat feet. But in it is like that kind of like, you know, what a cat foot looks.
Is it like fursuit feet?
No, it looks like a
feet?
little cat paw.
Oh, okay.
But this annoys a lot of people online. They didn't bother giving her a unique footprint.
Oh.
So when she's walking around in like the sand or in the snow, it's just the shoe print.
Oh, that's fucked up. I mean, for all the details they put in this game, and they missed that.
I guess it's because, like, I don't know if any other character has that. I think there is one other cat girl.
I know, but it would just be like a different image thing. It feels like...
Actually, there's two other cat girls.
Because it would just be a texture. It's not like actually imprinting on the world, right?
Yeah, but I mean, everyone shares that same footprint thing, even if the character is like wearing high heels or some shit.
I guess, but I feel for her they should.
Yeah, that would have been cute.
Yeah.
This is something I know I saw online.
Like, hey, it's an MMO, it's an online game. They can always update it. They can still fix this.
That's the fun thing about that game. Yeah, they just keep adding, and adding. Like, okay, I said next week they're adding that event with the cat girl where she's basically, you do the story with her and you get her for free, guaranteed. No gotcha needed. They're also adding like a whole new landmass. And I know I've talked about this before, I think last week, where they're adding like a whole new country in the 4.0 update. But in this 3.8 update, they're adding a whole other new landmass. And it's temporary. They're like, we're just going to make this big world section, and you can only play it for like this month and a half long period.
Okay, that's kind of fucked up.
It's really weird.
Not only did they put that much time into creating this to last, what, a month?
Yeah.
But also that plays on the FOMO.
That's exactly what it is, yes.
And that's fucked up.
It is. It's so... As much as I like that game, there's stuff like that. It's like, don't do that. It's messed up.
You have such a good game. Please stop doing this psychological shit.
And it sucks for like everyone that like just like you who like, oh, I'm gonna play it now just to see. There's stuff that you will never be able to see because it was like a limited time thing, and now it's gone forever. And some of that stuff was kind of story important. So
I mean, I guess you could argue that
I guess
it's
WoW
similar.
did that too.
Well, not only WoW, although they have the classic WoW that at least will stay the same until they hit classic cataclysm, I guess. But I was thinking of Final Fantasy. They did it for different reasons. They didn't do it for the psychological aspect, but you're never going to be able to explore the old thing or go through the storyline of the world just fucking apocalypsed itself.
It's like on YouTube exclusively now, basically.
Yeah.
Which I mean, in the sense of that game, I think most people are probably okay with it because like it wasn't good anyways.
But the ending seemed pretty good.
It's interesting, yeah. So yeah, in that sense, it's like there's a lot of games that are like that, and this is a tangent. Which I mean, this is.
Yeah, we haven't already gone on a tangent.
This podcast is just tangent after tangent, but like there are a lot of games where it's like this was a cool thing that happened, and like you can't really experience it anymore. But then it's like, do you really want to? Like, I guess for WoW Classic, you have that. You can go back and play WoW Classic until Cataclysm comes out, and then what are they going to do? Make another? This is WoW Classic 2.0.
I mean, you know what? Fucking maybe.
But yeah, there's like other stuff. Like I remember they had the plague in WoW. It's like you can't experience that anymore.
Oh, the unintentional plague.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing because scientists have legitimately analyzed what happened during that point in time, but that was literally just a bug. Like, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Sticking to the topic of like things that like, oh, this game has changed. Another example would be like in Monster Hunter. For example, in Monster Hunter World, once Iceborne came out, there was basically that changed a mechanic where you would quote unquote tenderize the monster.
Oh my god.
I know, it's very dumb. And that was a mechanic where you would use this hook shot thing to claw onto them and basically weaken a point so that you would do more damage. But once that update came out, like, you couldn't really play without it, so you can't experience Monster Hunter the way it was before that. And so there are some games where like they get updated and like this is just what the game is now. You can't experience what it used to be.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Do you think that, I mean, I guess that can only happen in live games. Because like in the old days, when games would come out and that was it, there was no additional updates. You could always explore what happened.
Yeah.
Regardless of when you play that. But now that's just a thing that happens.
With updated games. That's the one downside of digital games, I guess. Because like another example that pops into my mind is the Legend of Zelda with the Goron Temple music.
Yeah.
I had pre-ordered that game, so I had the gold cartridge. And when I played through the temple, it had the really cool like chanting music. And it was so cool.
I don't remember which one I had. Well, it wasn't even mine. I had the cartridge for Ocarina of Time. I guess it was the gold one, but it was from my friend. It was technically hers, but I played it. Yeah,
I don't know if all the gold ones had it, and if all like the gray ones didn't. But at some point, the game just stopped having that chanting music, which is a huge downgrade.
Does that count as a game that was patched back in the old day?
I mean, it was a physical game. You couldn't really patch it.
Well, not patched in that way, but the fact that they had a new version. like they stopped making the old
Yeah.
one and brought in a new version.
I guess you could say maybe like internally that was their like, I don't know, 1.2 version or something.
Because that happened with GTA as well.
Did it? Oh, with the
I
hot coffee?
Yeah, I think I had the original. I didn't have the mod that could bring out the hot coffee thing, but I had it where if you knew how to mod the CD, you could do it, and I had that version, I think.
Yeah, I think you could do it with like a Game Shark maybe.
I don't know. I never, like, I always heard of having Game Sharks, but I never had one myself.
Yeah, I never experienced hot coffee. It really didn't have any desire to, even as like a hormone driven teenager. GTA characters having sex wasn't exactly super appealing.
And it was funny because back in those days, like, oh, they were quote unquote having sex, but I think they still had their clothes on. Like, they
Yeah.
didn't have nude models
Yeah.
with actual genitals. It was just like, this Barbie doll is now humping this other Barbie doll.
And making noises, yeah.
Yeah, and holy shit, the fucking fiasco over that was hilarious. And these days, we just
Infuriating.
have games. Well, yes, but also hilarious. And now you just have full Boulder's Gate where you can literally just have sex with a bear man.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
I don't really know how graphic the sex in Baldur's Gate gets because I never really. I think
You
I
can
had.
pick having a penis. My little
Yeah, but do
dwarf
they
character
use
had
it?
a penis. No, well,
I
I
think
don't.
it's just like if that's there if you're nude, but I don't know if it like they actually use it, like how graphic the sex gets.
I don't know.
Because I did.
But the fact that you can pick having a penis on your character that also has boobs,
Yeah.
that is way past whatever they were fighting back about two Barbie doll characters having sex.
Yeah. I mean that, and then like Mass Effect also had a big.
Yeah, that was a massive kerfuffle too.
And,
And that
like,
went to black.
Yeah, that didn't do anything. Like I think maybe you saw some side boob. I barely remember that too. I know. I think later on in the sequels maybe there was more, but like it's so tame. You see way more hardcore stuff like on TV, but because like the politicians were just like video games. Oh, this is for my 5-year-old.
Yeah, that didn't help. So, like, I mean, it was also funny in this case of GTA because that was already a mature rated game.
Yeah.
So, what the fuck?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, technically, I played the GTA 3 when I was like not 18, so whatever.
Yeah, when did I have GTA 3? That was probably middle school, so yeah, I get that. But you can have all the violence you want, but God forbid two Barbie dolls that are smashing together.
Yeah. Like, oh, sorry, Jimmy, you can't play GTA 3. It's too violent and sexy. Let's just turn on Friday the 13th instead, and we can watch that and like see somebody's boobs get slashed up or whatever.
Or watch The Sopranos, where it's literally mob hits and shit.
It's crazy because I remember as a kid, I watched like the Jason movies, and there was a lot of boobies and stuff in that.
Actually, that does remind me. Oh my god, such a tangent. But watching, I think it was the second Final Destination movie. And in the opening scene where they're all on the highway, one of the first things is like, oh, the kids are going on like spring break or something, and this convertible pulls up alongside them on the highway, and the girls are just going crazy, and one of them lifts their shirt, and she's got her tits jiggling out and stuff. And I was like, whoa.
Awesome.
And then like later on, people are fucking burning to death.
I mean, they really went hard on that, like in American Pie. I remember when I was I was a teenager. I don't remember exactly how old, but American Pie came out. It's like, oh, he fucked the pie. It's like, okay, but there's also like there's this point where this girl is like masturbating and she's got her tits out. And wow, this is not about video games anymore. Anyway, American Pie, media, boobs.
Should we go back to what we played this week?
Sure, let's segue from what I just said into what you've been playing, which I'm sure is very related.
I've been playing Pokemon. Okay. Whew. Okay. So yes, what little I've been playing this week has been Pokemon, which is very not rated M. So I actually ended up playing this. I'm going to do a quick shout out to another Pokemon podcast by Galatrad and his girlfriend Bex.
I hope they don't mind the shout out right after what I just said about.
Well, they can't mention our podcasts on theirs because they have to stay family friendly. But it's fine the other way. And Galatrad loves our podcast. I'll just say that. He seems to enjoy it.
That's cool.
So I've been listening to their Pokemon specific podcast. And the first episode was definitely like they were explaining how they grew up with Pokemon as younger kids back in the, I guess, late 90s is what Pokemon officially came out, like 97, I think, or something.
I don't know. I was in middle school. I think I was in 9th grade when I bought Pokemon Yellow.
I'm going to go with 97, whatever, late 90s.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is how podcasts work. You listen to people talk, and then you kind of think of your own stuff in your head. And I was going over, like, how I grew up with Pokemon, and I don't remember the specifics about how I got Pokemon Red. I remember exactly how and when I picked up Pokemon Yellow, but whatever.
Yeah, me too.
Anyways, I was thinking, well, I have to play games to some extent to actually make this podcast worthwhile.
How did you get Pokemon Yellow? I want to hear that story.
Okay. So I remember specifically I guess back in the day I'd pre-ordered it.
Oh, wow.
Either I pre-ordered it or it was just the day it came out. And it was like, Mom, Dad, I have to have this. Either way. So I remember being in the back of my stepdad's black truck, and he had like the bucket seats, and I'm sitting sideways, and I'm just thinking like, oh my god, I'm getting Pokemon Yellow. We're going to Walmart, which at the time here in Rhode Island, Walmart was not the super Walmart, it was the regular one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the tiny one that
regular Walmart
doesn't exist anymore.
I'm sure we have one in our city.
Okay, mostly doesn't exist.
Anyway.
And I just remember sitting in the back of the truck. We're going there. I was thinking about like, oh, I don't know how far I should go into this, but I was
you
like,
were so hyped.
Sure. And I was thinking like, oh god, what if we get there and there's not any Pokemon Yellows left,
anxiety.
And blah blah blah. Yeah. Anyways, we go there and I get it, and this was back in the day where, you know, they had the cartridge, and I may have left my Game Boy
at home
or something. So I'm just reading through the manual and looking at the pictures.
That is so exactly, yeah. Every time.
Yeah.
Manual time. We get the car, bring out the manual, just like absorb everything before we get home.
Yeah, and I just really, really remember the original Pokemon art, and it had that watercolor kind of effect in his art and stuff. And man, that was good times. Did
you play Red and Blue before Yellow?
Yeah, I had Red originally, and I forget if it was when I was it was while I was playing Red. And I got in trouble for taking my Game Boy over to my friend's house and playing the game while my friend watched. Mm-hmm. And she was fine with it. But I guess my stepdad at the time, you know, they weren't brought up with games. And he thought I was being selfish by just playing a game all over at her house, even though we were kind of sharing it.
Yeah.
So I got my game taken away for a couple of days or some amount of time, which really sucked because my game was taken away just before I had got to the Safari Zone. So, you know, now looking back at it, I was like, okay, the Safari Zone was kind of fun, but it wasn't what I thought it was.
Me too, yeah.
In my mind, and I got to play this up as a kid while my game was taken away from me, I was like, oh, this is a Safari Zone. This is the special area. This is where the Pokemon roam free. So I thought that when you went into the Safari Zone, you would actually see the Pokemon, like the sprites walking around or something.
Yeah.
But it's just grass. Like, that's all they were capable of doing back in those days.
I guess they could have done something like that, but
maybe. But that's what I had built it up in my head, and then I got it, and I finally got to go to the Safari Zone. I'm like, oh wait, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, I had that exact same experience with the Safari Zone, thinking, oh wow, it's going to be different in here. Like maybe you'll see them roaming around, and you can choose which one you actually bother getting into an encounter with.
Yeah.
But
and then it didn't happen. But there was also, I do remember a slight thing. Now, the game came out, was it before or after the anime? But around the same time, right?
I think it was definitely after, because that was the big selling point, is like, oh, you get to meet the anime Team Rocket in this game versus like the generic guys.
Okay. So this was before we knew, or at least my little friend group, before we knew all of the Pokemon. Mm-hmm. So I knew there was Abra, And I'm pretty sure we knew of Kadabra. And we knew that there was a third one. So by my logical reasoning, I'm like, abracadabra. Oh, it's going to be alakazam. And like, I didn't have any proof of that before it happened, but I'm like, well, that's how the saying goes. You say abracadabra, alakazam. And then that turned out to be exactly that. I'm like, oh my God, I predicted what the third Pokemon was going to be. So it's just like, and then of course the whole kerfuffle of, before Gold and Silver came out, we're like, oh, did you hear about the blue Pikachu? It's Pika-Blue.
Pika-Blue,
oh my
yeah.
God. And that was a huge fucking thing because we just didn't really have the internet that we do today. Like, it
Yeah.
existed, but
It's crazy. Where did we
just-
even get Pika-Blue from? Must have been from like a magazine?
it had to be the magazine because I didn't have any of the magazines, but I'm sure some of the other kids in school, and then it just spreads.
Yeah, that's funny.
So,
Because I didn't really have anyone. I was like, okay, I was in ninth grade. I had played Pokemon Blue, I think, on an emulator. And because I had heard about it, it's like, oh, this big new thing, Pokemon. And then like I saw the anime, I was like, well, this is kind of fun. Then I tried Blue. I'm like, okay, I'll buy Yellow because Yellow's coming out, and I know you can get all the starters. And that was my big thing. It's like I want all the starters, so I don't want to have to choose. So I was in ninth grade. I went to the mall. I went to Sears because I didn't want to go to the game store, so nobody would see me. I went to their game section, and like, I'm just gonna buy it here where there's no other kids. And probably just some old man is not going to bother me about it. And then there was like some teenager working behind the counter. So I'm like, oh God, I can't let him see me buying Pokemon Yellow. So I went up to the counter and I'm like, I'm going to buy Pokemon, the yellow one. And I was like, acting all like nonchalant. Like, I don't know what this is. It's sort of like Kid Brother or something. And I'm just like pretending, yeah, I don't know too much about it. I don't know. It's probably this one. And just acting like it's not for me.
I'm buying it for Fred.
Don't worry, I'm in ninth grade. I'm an adult too. It's so dumb. But yeah.
Oh, and another thing, just remembering like bits and pieces of exploring a new game, and this just happens to be Pokemon again. But I remember the first time I booted it up. I was at the bowling alley that my stepdad had one of his leagues at.
Mm-hmm.
So, as much as I loved bowling at that time, too, the league took up... And this bowling alley was fucking huge. There was, like, 2 sides of this place. And probably, like, 20 lanes each side. Anyways, I couldn't bowl at the time because the league was taking it all up. So, I brought my Game Boy, and I had Pokemon Red. Now, the thing that was tricky is I would start it up, and I'd go through the stuff, and I would pick my first Pokemon, which I'm pretty sure from the beginning I always picked Bulbasaur.
Squirtle for me, yeah.
I have the thing for the plant Pokemon.
I wanted the turtle.
That's fair. But the thing was, is I played a little bit and then like, okay, maybe I wanted to stop for whatever reason or had to eat dinner or something at the bowling alley. But this was the first game where I had to ever save. Whereas all the other games would save automatically. And I was like, oh my God, how old was I at this time? I was probably 8 or 9. My best guess, maybe a little younger. I don't know. I did not save my game.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turned it back on to start playing again. I had to start it all over again. I'm like, what the hell? And I don't remember how many times it took me exactly, but finally I figured out that the menu had a save option. So that was an interesting aspect of learning how to play a new game for the first time. And
Big old RPG, yeah.
Yeah, I have to save this every time.
This probably was a lot of kids' first RPG.
Yeah, because, I mean, what other RPGs were on the Game Boy at the time? I mean...
Dragon Quest.
I didn't have any RPGs. I had Picross, I had Donkey Kong, I had Bomberman, maybe. Like...
I guess I was used to saving at this point because the Super Nintendo had been out, and like, you know, Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, and all those games had saving. I think even Mario World had a save system where like...
I didn't have any of those.
Yeah. So for me, it was like, okay, obviously you save, but like imagining for you to play this RPG for hours and having to start through it again and again.
Thankfully, I don't think it was super hours, but I do remember I had to pick Bulbasaur multiple times because I could not figure it out.
Wow.
But, oh, man, memories, man.
Yeah.
Just
Me
remember
too.
sitting at that table, and there was like, you know, tables next to the cafe section at the bowling alley that was like in the middle. And it's weird because as much as a pain of an ass it is to get to the bowling alley via buses here, I can go to that exact bowling alley that I was as a kid. And I've been there. I bowled there. I bowled there when Dad was still around. Like, I can go there and I can relive those memories right there. And it's, like, bonkers to me.
I mean, I guess it's.
I mean, that's almost 3 decades ago.
I guess it depends on where you live and like what the place you're going to is. But yeah, there's a lot of places where like I could go to King Richard's.
I guess, but there's also, I mean, in 3 decades,
It's
the
different.
mall I went to
Yeah.
does not exist anymore.
True. My mall still exists. I guess it just depends on. I wonder why the Rhode Island one didn't pan out.
It was
Maybe
knowing,
because we have a better one here.
well, no, I think what originally killed it was more of the Warwick Mall. That was quote unquote next door, but it was like after a highway. So I think people just had more access to the Warwick Mall than there was probably just financial reasons. It lasted a while and
Yeah, malls.
sorry, just a complete like nostalgia run off, I guess.
Yeah, I mean they are nostalgic. Like that's where we could hang out as kids because our
Mall
cities
rats.
sucked.
Yeah.
I was definitely one going to the mall after school, playing in the arcade. So much Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Carnival.
Oh yeah, remember when the arcade wasn't just mobile games on big screens?
Yeah, Silent Scope.
Oh my god, Silent Scope was my favorite because I could see through the scope and I was like, oh my god, I am so good at this. Fucking Silent Scope.
Yeah, those are the big ones at my arcade.
And then there was my arcade also, I guess towards the end of its life-ish, or before I left for Florida, was the big 18-wheeler.
Oh yeah.
And they had a huge fucking wheel, which is like comically big because as a kid I didn't understand, but tractor trailers don't have wheels that big.
It's interesting because like yeah, some people think of like certain arcade games that are like I've never got to play Crazy Taxi in an arcade or Metal Slug in an arcade until way past when they were like new. In fact, I think the first Metal Slug I played at an arcade was like Metal Slug 4 or 5, like one of the later ones.
What about like the really old school arcade games? Like, was it Big Bertha? And you like shoot the balls into her mouth and her belly progressively gets bigger with air and stuff.
Oh, like one of the token games?
Yeah. Or Skee Ball. I mean, Skee Ball is a pretty popular one, and they might actually still have those somewhere.
Yeah, I think King Richard's had a bunch of those where like you get like a bunch of balls and you throw them down this long thing, and it like there was a Wheel of Fortune one that I liked playing, even though like it had barely anything to do with Wheel of Fortune, but it had the wheel, just no word game associated with it.
What was some? Oh, there was like a clown game where all the clowns were like pins, I think, or something, and you had to shoot the balls at them and knock them down or something.
I don't know. The big clown game for me has always been Carnival.
No, no, I'm talking about games that
I know.
are physical and not like digital games and stuff. But I do remember Carnival too.
We played so much of that.
Was it House of the Dead?
House of the Dead was good too, yeah. We didn't have that locally.
And then there's also
No, wait, we did. I think King Richard's had that.
Daytona.
Oh, yeah.
Do. Like all those car games and
Yeah.
stuff.
I think King Richard's had that Star Wars game where like half of it was just like video.
Oh my god, the biggest thing I remember working at King Richard's was it was a fucking like candy game, and it was just right next to the food area where I would make food for people and stuff. And it was just like every 5 minutes it would say like play until you win or whatever it's saying. Oh my god, you want to listen to play until you win for every 5 fucking minutes for an 8-hour shift?
I mean, I think that's any arcade is going to get annoying. Like, okay,
Yes.
my cousin worked at the arcade at the mall, and I would visit the mall after school because it was like right across the street. And even being there for like an hour or two until his shift was over, like, oh yeah, I'm having fun with Marvel vs. Capcom or whatever. But like a lot of the other games, especially when they would be like on their demo mode, just repeating the same thing over and over and over again.
Yes,
oh
I'm
boy.
like, oh my, and it doesn't help that I kind of already have whatever you want to, mental trait you want to call it, where I have things repeating in my head anyways. The first day I swear I was going to blow my brains out because it was driving me absolutely insane.
Yeah, as a kid, it seems like, oh, this would be like an amazing place to work. But then it's like, oh, God, this is driving me crazy.
Other than the repeating things, it actually was a pretty good place to work because I don't know what vendor they were getting their like frozen little mini personal pizzas from. Those things smelled fucking amazing while they were in the oven. And they were also pretty damn tasty too. Like I probably ate way more pizza than I should have while working there, but
Wow.
that was good. And also getting, the few times that you would work the rock climb thing, and if someone like got nervous at the top and you had to like help them down, you got to clip in and go up that thing, for free to try and help them get back down.
You did that before?
I think at least once or twice.
Wow,
I had to
cool.
climb up there and try and help someone get down.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was nice.
never...
And then there was the one time where the little boy, I don't know, he couldn't have been older than 8. He might have been 6 or 7. That little shit. Now, part of it probably because the hook on him, it did have some tension on it, so he was obviously very light, so it was probably helping to actually pull him up.
Mm-hmm.
That little shit climbed that thing like a fucking spider. It was crazy. He was just like whoosh, 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 and got up there in like half a minute. It was crazy. But yeah, that was fun.
I just imagine you working at the rock wall and like you're there with the parent and the kid. He goes up there and you're like, wow, your little shit is fucking fast.
No, I mean, I didn't say it out loud, but it was just crazy.
Man. See, my favorite part, I didn't work at the arcade, but my cousin did. But he would just go in and like, let's play this. He would open it up, turn on free play. And that's how
I didn't have that access.
We beat Carnival that way. Like, there's no way we would have beat Carnival without that.
I mean, they weren't meant to be beaten for the most part.
Unless they're like throwing in like $30 or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Man. So, nostalgia, huh?
Yeah. We sure did fill some time.
Should I go back to talking about my playtime in Pokemon, or should we just...
Is there anything interesting you want to talk about with Pokemon? I'll probably skip my game for this week, so...
I guess the big thing is... Let's see, I got Bulbasaur because grass. You get the Rattata, you get the Pidgey, blah, blah, blah. I played both the old version and this new, Leaf. I actually went, instead of doing Fire Red...
You want to know something? That version is also an old version now, considering there's new versions.
What do you mean? Did they remake Leaf Green?
They remade Red and Green, yeah. Red and Blue for the Switch, where you can get like the little characters to follow you.
You mean like the Let's Go Pikachu?
Yeah, isn't that like a remake of
Blue? Guess. I was kind of thinking that would be a remake almost of, at least in the case of Let's Go Pikachu, would be like almost the remake of Pokemon Yellow. Because I was thinking, they remade Red and Blue into Red and Green. And then they did the remakes of all the other ones that I haven't been through yet. And I was thinking I'm going to start with Leaf Green and then progressively go through the remakes in order. Wow. So like half, I'll do like Heart Gold next or Soul Silver or whichever. And just go through them. Because I mostly only played Red and I think I got Gold because I wanted Ho. I only played those when they originally came out, and then I didn't really do anything after that. Like, I knew the Pokemon, I just didn't play the games.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe I'll go through this.
That's funny. I never really played Gold or Silver either. I mean, I did play the Japanese version on an emulator back as a kid.
Those were big because it came out and there was like 9-day cycle.
Yeah.
And breeding.
I was old enough that I was reading about it in the magazines. And it's like, whoa, this is cool. And like the biggest thing for me was not the night and day, but just the fact that the sprites, when you were viewing them from behind, were like, high resolution, like the regular sprites. It's like, this is what sold me. This looks good. So I played the Japanese version on an emulator before the, Western release. Didn't get too far, and then just never ended up playing the Western release. So I kind of skipped that generation until Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah, I think I either officially finished Gold, or I at least made it to, I guess it was supposed to be like Red that you beat at the end after the Elite Four. Because he's like hiding in a cave for some fucking reason. I
think it's like you beat the Elite Four and then you go back to Kanto. Yeah, you play through that and then I think he's at the end. That is such a cool, like, just the fact that like there's so few games like, hey, remember that old place? You can just go there now after. Like, that's amazing that they did that. And we all, I'm assuming, know the story of how like Iwata supposedly tried to fix that or help them, because it was like almost too much for the cartridge, so they had to figure out how to make it smaller or something. Yeah, I don't remember the exact details because I
I
think there
don't
was
know
an
it's a
update about that story about like it wasn't.
yeah, it was Apocrypha or something.
Yeah.
But
So let's not.
okay,
I don't
well,
like to dive into things if I'm not 100% sure. Even though I'm
well,
sure I've
I
said a bunch of.
remember that was the hype, and then they
Yeah.
went back and said, well, maybe this isn't exactly how it happened, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then after Gold, I don't think I played it until I ended up winning Pokemon Moon, I think, the
Really?
Alola.
You didn't. I thought you played like Diamond and Pearl or one of the DS games.
Maybe, but
Oh, you also definitely played White or Black. The one was like in America.
okay, maybe I did play a little,
Because I
but
played
I
that
guess
one.
I never finished it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard. Like, you get the nostalgia for the first game, and then the rest of them kind of just blur together.
Yeah, so if anyways, I figured I'd probably go through these remakes, quote unquote, in order. I'll see if I can actually stay with that goal, but
Yeah, that's a lot of games. Like, you don't like long term projects. That is a
yeah,
long
I
term
know,
project
I
with a
know.
lot of
Well,
grinding.
we'll see how I get through this one. And right now, the big thing is I got the comic idea where like I went in, I got Mankey because I knew from all the times I've played this version that Mankey is over on the side, and
Yeah.
but I didn't. I I know the basic matchups like oh water's good against fire, fire's good against grass, and bug is good against grass, and the simple things, but like certain things I'm gonna have to like almost relearn because it's been so long I lost it.
Hmm.
So at some point I realized Mankey was good against rock
Yeah.
because usually you just
Fighting.
go in with Bulbasaur that I picked. Usually Bulbasaur's always like, or your first pick is always going to be higher than everything else in your party. I've managed to keep it relatively even.
Hmm.
So I go in with Mankey, and I just fucking demolish Brock like one hit each, both
Yeah.
his Geodude and his Onyx, and I'm like, holy shit.
They put that Mankey there for people that pick Charmander, because if you get there with Charmander and all you have is Charmander and like Caterpie and Pidgey, you can't beat Brock. So Mankey is there to be like, well, here
I
you go.
guess, but like maybe this was, back when I was a little kid and I didn't realize. It feels like that side area, if you're not used to exploring, is very easy to miss.
Oh yeah, definitely,
So
definitely.
if you don't know it's over there, you're not going to know.
I just
You're just
remember
going to go straight and like mash heads against Brock.
I just remember because I played like Yellow. You start with Pikachu. I don't remember when you get Bulbasaur and Squirtle because I know he has like their story things that you have to do to get them.
Yeah.
But like
I think you get your first one after or just before Misty.
I don't know. Bulbasaur would be helpful, but like if you had to go against Brock with like imagine just a Pikachu, a Weedle, and a Pidgey, like it would be impossible. So if you're like one of those kids that got the version that is where Caterpie is rare, so you can't get Butterfree, and even Butterfree wouldn't be the best option there.
No, but I mean, I have Butterfree now, and I'm like, I can't keep this in my party because the confusion is good, but everything else is just not good.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag with them, especially back then. Like if yeah, you're playing the version of the games where like special attack and attack are kind of
Separated, I think, or are they still the same?
they're still like depending. So grass is always going to be like special or something like that. And like this grass Pokemon might have high physical but low special attack. So it wasn't like super well designed.
Mm.
It was a little unbalanced. Whereas now it's like, okay. Because I remember when I played Ruby or Sapphire, I really liked the shark torpedo guy.
Sharpedo.
Yeah. He's like, oh, this is a cool little dude. I like him. But he has really high attack and he's water and dark. But both of those scale off special attack. So it's like, oh, great.
A random thing about Sharpedo is it took me absolute ages to realize he actually doesn't have a tail. I thought it was just the angle that they drew him that his tail was in the back of him or something.
I guess if
But
you,
he literally does not have.
yeah, if you would have played those games, you would have seen. Because, like, well, for me, I used them so I could see the backside.
Mm.
Yeah.
And another thing is like, as far as playing Pokemon and enjoying Pokemon, I was always like, even when it came to the card game, I'm just like, I collect them and I enjoy, and I'll pick my Pokemon over what I find more appealing,
Yeah.
like visually appealing.
Yeah.
I don't know when it started. Maybe it was in the old games where like the Pokemon would have these IVs and EVs and all this special shit, and I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe now I can kind of look more into how the fighting aspects, like, oh, when is it physical versus special attack and stuff like that. But I never got into that like crazy shit.
I think as long as if you're just playing through the game normally, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I'm not battling other people.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I don't have to worry about that. But it's just like at some point that became such a thing in the Pokemon community.
Yeah, it's in Power
And I'm
World
like,
too.
I can't deal with that. I just don't care.
Is
it cute? I like it.
Yeah, that's the thing I saw. Like when I was playing through Power World, I would join the subreddit and be like, at some point somebody discovered that there's IVs in Power World, but it wasn't being shown. So people made a mod so that you could see the IVs, and then people went crazy. Like, oh, I gotta breed my perfect little dude that has the right passives and the right IVs or whatever they call them, and it's just like, I mean, play the game how you want, but you're driving yourself crazy.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you're into math and you want to figure out the exact equation and it is somewhere on Wiki where they actually have like, oh, catch rate and there's this huge mathematical formula. I don't give a shit. I'm just going to press B and pretend that it helps me.
If it's good enough, it's good enough. But like, I guess if you're playing something competitive, but it's like you see some of these people and they're like, I want to get my perfect little Anubis guy and whatever he was called, and you just see them breeding these, and you see like millions and millions of eggs, and like just like, look at my box, it's full of like 50 of these guys that are useless because they're not the perfect IV and the perfect passives. And in that game, you don't get just one passive, you get 4.
Oh, God.
So it's like, oh, I got 3 out of 4. Nope, he's not perfect. Ugh. Oh, this one's got all 4, but his IVs suck. And it's like, oh my God, you're killing yourself.
I'm just going to enjoy my Pokemon and create my own little headspace. Like, I already have the little drawing of Mankey, and I'm just going to make this cute little Pokemon thing, and it's going to have this comic, and something's going to happen, and it's going to be adorable. It doesn't have to have perfect stats. I don't like that.
Yeah, I kind of...
But I have a thing where, like, even in real life, if I adopt a cat and it already has a name that's not, like, somehow offensive or something, I'm not going to change the cat's name. The cat already has a name.
You aren't naming your Pokemon, though, are you?
No.
Tisk.
I mean, I might eventually, if they grow on me, like, maybe I'll name Mankey something. I can go to the name raider and change it.
Yeah.
But as far as, like, I can't think of a name straight off the top of my head when I'm...
Yeah, I know. I think the anime also kind of normalized the idea of, like, they don't have names.
Yeah.
Which is awkward. Like, imagine going to, like, a convention of Squirtle owners and everyone's like, hey, Squirtle. They, like, 20 heads turn.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I also, now that you kind of brought up the anime thing, there was one, I think it was the episode with the people were trying to build a dam and the Diglett and Doug trio. It was like, Diglett, Diglett, trio.
I remember that episode.
There was actually a Pokemon trainer that specifically put like a sticker on all their Pokeballs to tell them apart from everyone else's. Or
I don't remember that. I remember there was a trainer that had a Pikachu and he like named it something, and his Pikachu had like
or something.
Had like a little fluff thing on his head.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not Ash's Pikachu, it's this Pikachu. It's like, how different would it be if every one of those little dudes had their names? But if they had their names...
I did like personalizing the Pokeballs, though.
If they did have their own names, like, are they still saying their monster name when they talk?
Yeah, but let's go with the game and just say they have sounds like actual animals.
Oh my God. I won't get into the tangent because bless you people that love Pokemon. But yeah, I will never ever forgive the Pokemon Company for killing Pikachu's original growl and making him say his name in the games as well.
Yeah. What was the game that did that? I mean, I know there's probably multiples, but there was one... Is it the new, like, Sword and Shield, or...
I think all of them do. Like, if Pikachu exists in the game...
It just says Pikachu.
It just says Pikachu. It doesn't do its growl anymore.
Which is really messed up because...
None of the other Pokemon do that.
Well, not only that, but just the Pikachu spark
It's lost
growl.
media.
No, I mean, it has it in here. I mean...
That's an old
Leaf
game.
Green.
But yeah.
Yeah. Actually, you know another... God, we're going over, but... Leaf Green was remade in 2004.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that it was that recent because Pokemon had only come out in, like, say, 97 or 96.
Is 20 years ago that recent?
You're going to do my heart like that?
20 years ago. There's people who are full-ass adults smoking cigarettes and fighting wars, and they're younger than Pokemon Leaf Green.
Okay, I know. But what I mean to say is that if Pokemon Red and Blue came out in, say, 97 for us,
Yeah.
2004 does not seem that long after that to have started to remake them all.
Yeah, this was Generation 3. So, because they basically used the Sapphire and Ruby engine for that. Which I think, in
So
my
I think
opinion,
that's
is
the part that
probably
blows my mind.
one of my favorite ones. You know what I really like about that is that when somebody does like a harden or whatever, where their stats go up, you get that little like effect on the Pokemon, and it's really quick. It's so snappy.
Yeah.
But now, like a lot of some of the newer games, is like it has this big old long drawn out thing, and it's like Pokemon is a very slow game these days. That's another reason I liked Power World too. It was so fast. Controversial opinion. I think I like Power World more than Pokemon these days, but
Well, maybe the modern Pokemon. The old ones are still good. The only thing that gets me here is the constant beep
I
for
mean,
the death sound.
yeah, there's nostalgia, and they're good games. But like, I think what I want to see Pokemon learn from Power World is obviously not the gun stuff. That's silly. Although the humor in Power World, I would love to see some of that brought into Pokemon. But I want to see more purpose for your PC Pokemon, because in Power World, you're only running with like your 5 Pokemon. But then you got like 15 at this town. Maybe this is my farming town, and all these dudes are planting stuff and watering, and over here they're mining some ore and stuff, and like you set up all the cool beds and like all the saunas and stuff, and you feed them really good food, and it's like just you see them walking around. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I caught this really cool Psyduck, but it doesn't fit in my team. I'm never gonna see him again.
Yeah,
But
that's
in Power World, it'd be like, well, Psyduck could be over here, and he's helping watering the cranberries, and you see him like lounging around in the sauna. I love that about Power World. Just like you go home, and there's these Pokemon that you're not using, and then you just see him like chilling in the sauna with a big old smile on his face, and like, oh, look at that little dude. I love that.
That would be nice. And I think they really fucked over themselves to not be able to do that, or at least not in a decent time frame, because they have like what, a fucking 1,000 Pokemon at this point. They overdid it and they screwed themselves so badly.
It's tough, like, cause like if you make a new game, you want to have some new Pokemon, right? But like,
Maybe we don't need new Pokemon every single fucking time. Maybe we can just work with the 1,000 we have now.
that is gonna be controversial, I think. I mean, I agree. I would, you know what I would love, instead of like the next Pokemon game having, oh, this is our 100 new Pokemon. What if they did 100 new variants? I love the variants. Like, oh, this Ponytail that lives in this climate is evolved differently. It looks like this and it does this.
Yeah.
I love that. Was a great idea.
I do like the idea of Pal World in the sense of like, yeah, building an old village. Because like, even from the early anime days, and like, I think Erica was shown to have like this little animal rescue in the woods and stuff with her Bulbasaur and the Oddish and stuff like that. And then later on you had, I guess technically it was a quote unquote unofficial gym with the Sandshrew that had like the special things to make it tougher, and like it was a gym, a Pokemon gym, in the sense that Pokemon were working out there and getting stronger, but not necessarily battling each other.
Yeah.
Then in other episodes there's like a spa and all this stuff. I always wanted to be like not a Pokemon trainer. I wanted to do something else with Pokemon. I wanted to either be the breeder or yeah, making a spa for Pokemon, and all the Pokemon will work for you and provide services as well and all this stuff. I didn't want to train my Pokemon. I didn't want to battle my Pokemon like dog fighting.
Yeah.
I wanted to do other things.
That is another thing about Power World that I really like. Like, okay, in the open world, you do have to have like some pals with you to like, you know,
protect yourself.
Yeah. And not all of the Pokemon out in the world were like hostile. So like sometimes you could just walk past them, but some of them were. Like some are just going to be hostile. This big old tiger thing, he sees your little chicken, he's going to attack you. But like a lot of, you didn't necessarily have to engage with all the battling stuff. You could reach max level just by exploring and gathering resources and building like a bunch of little Pokemon paradises at your home base. You could make like a cool little town, give them all the best beds, make sure they have all the best spa facilities, grow all the best food. Some people, they make like slave labor camps basically, and like, well, I gotta feed these guys, I'm just gonna give them berries. You can eat raw berries, like the bare minimum, and then your little pals, they get sick, they get depressed. But if you actually like I would be growing like lettuce and tomatoes and making salads, and like it takes more effort to like prepare all the food and make that stuff, but it keeps them full longer, it keeps them more happy.
Yeah.
And it also gives them buffs, like, oh, this salad is giving them vitamins, so they do, they do their chores a little bit better. And you see them running around happy. It's like a lot of the media around that game is like, oh, you see them in the slave chambers and they're just making guns and stuff, but like you don't. I don't know, most people probably don't play that way because it's not efficient, but it's also just like you don't have to do that. You can make it really good and enjoy seeing your little dudes running around happy, because when you see them run up to the food and they're eating the good stuff and they have the little happy face on them and then they rush off to go do their chores, it's like they want to do that stuff. If you don't have them doing anything, they just kind of wander around aimlessly. Anyway, holy cow, what a day, what a podcast. Any closing thoughts?
I'm going to slowly make my way through Pokemon, but half the time I'm going to be in my mind in a completely different world and making up my own Pokemon fantasies and how I'm actually exploring this world instead of what the game is making me do. And
yeah,
I'm going to just revert back to childhood.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm going to enjoy it. And
especially the first game.
Maybe I'll work on my art and get some of my thoughts out.
I have a lot of nostalgia for the first game, but it's probably the most unbalanced as far as like having to just, well, I gotta go
grind.
Yeah, like,
yeah, I'm going through that right now.
You see
I get to Misty.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, oh, all these people living in this town with Misty, and like they just look out and there's this kid in the grass just like killing all the birds in the grass. It's like, why are you doing this? Why are you killing all the birds here? We need those birds.
It's an ecological disaster.
And it's just like, I gotta do this to fight Misty. So I was like, maybe
blame her.
Maybe the city council should be like, hey Misty, can you tone it down a bit? Everyone's killing all the local wildlife because of you.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed joining us for an absolute
too long,
bonkers, nostalgia-filled mess of a conversation.
Yeah, if you're still awake. Anyway, we'll see you next time.
See you next week. Bye.
Goodbye.